iGas are currently doing exploratory digging for fracking, and I've come to be part of the process today. And I'm going to be interviewing Bob Dennett, who I met a few weeks ago at the Freckleton meeting, the Frack-Free Freck meeting. And Bob is just literally a mine of information. So I'm going to have a little technical chat with Bob today. And this is his van, by the way, Sizzling Pigs. He's bought us a hog roast today. So of all things, while we're here at Barton Moss, we're going to be having a hog roast as well. Hey, Bob.
Hi, Michelle.
So, Bob, tell me, why are you here down at Barton Moss today?
Down here to show solidarity from the Fylde with the protectors that are camping out here. I personally don't have the stamina to camp out in this weather, although I did camp out at Barton last year. When the weather warms up, I will come down and camp out if they're still here.
But why are you even here? Like, why are you against fracking? Like, tell me that.
I already feel guilty about the legacy that my generation has left for the future generations, because during the last 60 plus years, we've had a boom time, we've had big cars, plenty of gas, plenty of oil, and we're leaving a legacy behind that my grandchildren, for instance, are going to have to live with. And I feel that it's time we stop this, it's time we stop raping and pillaging Gaia, and I'm putting something back.
So, Bob, you were one of the first people that I met that started to technically explain fracking to me, and you've been kind of a real font of all knowledge for me. Can you just describe to people what is the process of fracking and why you think it's so bad?
Fracking, it stands for, it's a shortened version of high volume, slick water, multilateral hydraulic fracturing. And fracking comes from the word fracturing. And what's occurring here is they drill into the ground to get to the shale. The shale's typically about 10,000 feet down, and then they drill horizontally, which they haven't yet done in the UK. They drill horizontally, which they haven't yet done in the UK, and then once they've drilled horizontally,
we're just moving out of the way for a van to come past us. We're in everybody's way here, sorry.
Once they've drilled horizontally, they will put what they call frack guns down through the steel casing of the well, and they'll punch holes in the side of the well. Good point while we're talking about frack guns is that we've just discovered that they're using depleted uranium charges on the frack guns.
What is that? What does that mean?
Depleted uranium, it's uranium that's been treated to make it to use with explosives. They used a lot of this in the Iraq war, the Kosovo, and they're using them in Afghanistan. Depleted uranium explodes at twice the pressure of a conventional charge. So it makes a bigger hole. It makes a bigger initial
It's a
fracture.
bomb, basically.
Yes. It makes a bigger initial fracture in the rock, and then the next stage of the process is that they pump a cocktail of chemicals and sand and water into the well at 15,000 pounds per square inch. That goes through the holes that into the initial fractures that they've created, and that pressure then fractures the rock. It can fracture, well, nobody in the oil and gas industry is admitting how far a fracture can go, but from experience we're fairly sure that it can go at least 2,000 metres. So that poses significant risk if you live in a geologically faulted area, which we do in the Fylde.
What do you mean? What does that mean for us in the Fylde?
Well, in the Fylde we've got a lot of geological faults.
Is that where we had an earthquake when Pre-Sol was fracking?
That is absolutely correct. The fracking fluid, which is a lubricated fluid, slick water, got into a geological fault which was under stress, and it slipped, and that's what caused both of the earthquakes.
How easy is that to happen?
Well, quite easily apparently, because that was their very first frack in the UK.
That's the
only well that has been hydraulically fracked using this method in the UK.
And did it cause any damage, like the earthquakes?
I have a friend whose house was quite badly damaged. I've seen the damage. It didn't damage my house, even though I was closer to it, and but it did shake the house very, very badly. In fact, the oil and gas industry will tell you that it's like a bus driving past your house.
Wow.
Well, I can tell you that this was like a bus driving through my house.
Through the house.
Yes.
Now, even the word fracture, I mean, it kind of puts a shiver down my spine. You know, you think of like fracturing your arm, or, you know, it's a bad thing, surely. Like, why would we want to fracture the earth?
It's a dreadful thing to do. Firstly, we don't need the fractured gas.
Why not? Because that's what I've heard, is that it's going to be great for our economy. It's going to save all of our issues with shortages of gas.
We're not short of gas. The government have artificially caused a gas shortage by imposing punitive windfall taxes on the offshore industry, which have caused them to turn down the flow. And on the other hand, they've given huge tax breaks to the onshore industry. It's absolute insanity, and there isn't any economic logic in it.
Why are we doing it then?
Now therein lies the big question. We know they're after chemicals as well as gas, but personally I think there's probably a bigger picture, but I don't know what that picture is. Even with the chemicals, I still can't see any logic in what they're doing.
And are you worried about the health risks? Because that's the thing that I've been looking at, and I've gotten most kind of concerned about personally, is the risks to health, to the water, to the environment. Like, what do you want to share about that?
I'm very worried about the health risks, and that's the primary reason that I'm here opposing this, and have been for the last 2 years.
What can happen? Like, what can the health risks be?
As I said before, they use a cocktail of chemicals for the fracking process, and when they've completed the frack and the gas starts to flow, approximately 50% of that liquid comes back. We're talking probably between 2 and 5 million gallons of water per well.
Wow.
And we get back about 50% of that.
What happens to the rest?
That stays in the ground.
And goes where?
Some of it migrates.
To what?
To other areas through the fractures.
Is that how it gets in the water table?
There is a risk of it migrating into the water table.
So we could be drinking the frack fluid?
Yes.
Whoa.
Basically.
And getting into our rivers and
getting into our rivers, our waterways, our aquifers. And the worst part of that is the flow back is that there are lots and lots of elements 10,000 feet down that do not belong in the human environment. Compounds such as what we call the BTEX, benzene, ethylene, toluene and xylene, these are all potent carcinogenics.
They're okay while they're underground, right?
They're fine while they're down underground, but like I said, they don't belong in the human environment. They're potent carcinogenics. Some of the other chemicals that they use that come back up and that they use in their cocktail of chemicals are also endocrine disruptive. And
what does that mean?
It disrupts your endocrine system. It can affect your brain function. It can affect your whole body function. Evidence from the USA suggests that people living within a 10-mile radius of fracking sites have a 75% higher chance of getting cancer or any of these other disorders.
Yeah.
There are cattle are dying, livestock's dying, pets are dying, children are being born deformed, underweight. The whole system is so polluting and so dangerous, and the oil and gas industry just don't seem to care. So
hang on a minute, because I heard from Quadrilla that like they're doing much safer here in the UK. It doesn't have the same risks that, you know, like, what do you want to say about that?
Well, that's another one of the oil and gas industry's PR fairy tales. We had a scientist, Jessica Ernst, came over from Canada. She's an oil and gas industry scientist who is now suing Encana, one of the large operators in Canada, and the Alberta government for polluting her land. And she came over from Canada and did a tour in the UK. And I was stood watching her PowerPoint presentation, and as she was going through it, I'm thinking, they're doing that here, and they've done that here, and they've done that here, and they've done that here, and I gave up when I got up to 10 items, because I thought, well, that just proves that everything they've done in the USA and Canada and Australia, they're replicating here. So they're telling us it will be different here, but we've no evidence.
We've no evidence, right?
The only evidence we've got so far
is them telling us.
Is that Quadrilla have drilled 4 wells in Lancashire, and they've damaged 2 of them.
They've damaged 2 out of 4 wells already?
Yes. One with the earthquakes.
That's not a good start.
That well is damaged so badly it can't be reused. They started drilling another well at Anna's Road on the mossland at St Anne's near Blackpool, and they've damaged that well. So they've got a 50% failure rate.
That's not a good safety record. So what about the safety aspects of it? Because people are saying, well, surely the government aren't going to allow some thing that's dangerous and like all the things you've just said to happen in our back garden. They're going to regulate this. And I keep hearing about these regulations. I heard Cameron talking about the regulations. So surely that's going to make sure that this 2 out of 4 wells failing isn't going to happen?
I don't think so. The regulations that we've got, there are no specific onshore unconventional gas regulations.
So there's no regulations for this industry?
They're applying the offshore regulations to onshore. And these are not only 2 completely different processes, but 2 completely different environments. What regulations are in place, they're sweeping aside. I mean, they're streamlining the planning process so that the statutory minimum of 21 days for a consultation, they're reducing that to 2 weeks. Now, they haven't specified whether that's 2 working weeks or 14 working days.
Yeah.
So we don't know.
Okay. So listen, Bob, I mean, it all sounds pretty downbeat, right? What can people do? If someone's watching this video for the first time and they're thinking, I didn't even know any of this stuff, what do I do? Where do I go? Like, what should be someone's first action if they're just hearing about this for the first time?
Firstly, go onto the internet and do a search. Just do a search on fracking or risks of fracking. There is a site that you can look at, which it's a Pennsylvania site, and it's called the List of the Harmed. There you can find out what damage it has done to people in the USA, because they've been doing this there for 7 or 8 years. So the cumulative effects are beginning to appear in the USA. It'll take a long time here, but
it'll happen.
But they will happen.
And once you've seen this and you've gone, oh, help! Where do you go next?
Go to another site, another website called Write to Them. Write to your MP.
Is that WRITE?
That's correct.
Write to them.
Yes. Write to your MP. Write to your local councillors. Find your local campaign group and join them.
How do you do that?
If you look on the web for or Facebook for that matter for anti-fracking campaign groups in your area,
find them.
You'll find them. And
right.
the protest movement against this is growing daily. When I first started fighting this 2 years ago, there were 4 groups in the whole of the UK. Now there are over 100.
Wow. That's incredible. And I read recently in the Telegraph that whereas 2 years ago 75% of the UK was in favour of fracking, it's now as low as 25%.
That is correct.
Which means 75% of the population do not want fracking.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's just like, surely that's enough. Surely that's enough to make a big enough noise. But I don't see all those people here today.
Unfortunately not. That's a shame.
Yeah, but they've all got their jobs to go to, right?
The government just aren't listening because they're too focused on the fortune that they're going to make personally.
Well, listen, Bob, thank you so much for your time today and for explaining all this to me and being my font of all knowledge, and also for providing the hog roast that I can't wait to try.